This is something that's really hard for me to do. I don't even know how I'm gonna do this, honestly. I've already sat here and tried filming this once already, and I ended up just rambling for 10 minutes. I wanna talk to you guys about me, I guess, and how I grew up, because you get to watch me here and there, like once a week, once every couple of weeks in a video, and I don't feel like it truly represents who I am at all. And I talk about that I love you guys, that I appreciate you guys, and like a lot of you are cool friends, a lot of you are cool family. But even a lot of the friends that I've made through YouTube don't know everything about me, don't know where I came from and the shit that happened in my past, and the good stuff that happened in my past too. And I've always wanted to kind of talk about it because I feel like I'm at the point now on YouTube where I've distorted kind of who I am. And I'm not saying that like I get up on camera and I act like someone else. I wake up when I film. That's the best way to put it. I'm usually a really quiet, reserved guy, and I think a lot of people don't realize that. And I mean, one of the biggest examples is... Oh, there's so many examples. When I moved into this house, the roommate I had initially met me through YouTube. And I think when I moved in, he expected me to be like this loud, boisterous... Boisterous? Is that a word? This loud, kind of active, yelling, fun guy. And then I got here and I just sort of sat in my room and played video games, and I was really quiet. And that's kind of who I am. I kind of withdraw into myself a lot. And the first time I met someone that was a YouTuber or a friend or even a freaking family member was Scott. I started talking to Scott from the channel JHMDF or Scott Squatch way before I came to America, like a year or two before I came to America. And we used to Skype like every day. We became really good friends. We had video call almost every day. But then when he actually met me, I mean, both him and Jeremy said that I was a completely different person to what they expected. And that's weird for me because I know who I am. And when I make a video, I don't like see myself differently. I just saw that I made a video because I know who I am. But you guys see me for 10 minutes once a week and you get to build this idea of who I am, but really you have no idea. You can get like a rough idea. Like I had a rough idea of what Billy was going to be like from Game Chasers. You know, he was one of my favorite channels. He is one of my favorite channels, the Game Chasers. You know, I watched him for like 3 or 4 years before I met him. And I had a rough idea of what he would be like, and it was pretty much that, but with like all these extra layers that make someone a human being that I only found out about when I became a friend. Stuff from his past, or just stuff that or how he acts outside of a video. And I've always wanted to sit down and talk about that and talk about where I came from in my childhood. But honestly, my childhood wasn't that great. And I didn't want to sit here and depress people. And every time I've tried talking about it, I've just ended up going on this huge like 20-minute rant video about depression. And then I've sat down to try and edit it, and I realized that's all I talked about for like 20 minutes. And I didn't want to put that up and just buzzkill everyone. So I guess I want to try and find some positives in my childhood and just talk about it in general, and just kind of me through the years growing up. So I've got very minimal pictures. I don't talk to my parents anymore, which is something that we'll get to at some point. I'm gonna try and keep this short. I'm covering 26 years here, but I have some pictures, and I talked to my grandparents, and he's been sending me some photos recently of me as a kid growing up. I just want to talk about, I guess, what made me me, and sort of closer to who I am now as opposed to who you know through videos. So we'll start looking at photos and go from there. In this photo, we have my nan on the right, an absolutely wonderful lady, and very important to me, and we'll get to why later in this story. Me right in the middle there. I don't know whose dog that is. It looks like my old dog Poppy. I don't know why it would be at my grandma's house. I'm guessing this is my grandma's house because my grandparents never came to my house because they pretty much weren't allowed to. Because my parents are dicks. On the left is my uncle. Such a long relationship story with him. And then in the back there, I'm pretty sure that's my aunt, because it looks a lot like my aunt, but at the same time it doesn't. But I'm pretty sure that it is. My aunt Wendy. So we have Wendy, we have Ryan on the left, and we have my nan. Her name's Miriam, but we call her Nan. And then me in the middle. I didn't really go to my grandparents' house growing up much. I loved going there. I remember I always loved going there. It was always a treat. I remember me and my brother, we'd always go and they'd always have candy for us, and we'd eat so much. We weren't really allowed candy when we were at home. we weren't allowed candy when we were at home. So we'd eat so much candy, we threw up almost every time. And I like hate throwing up, and I've always hated throwing up, and I always try to avoid it at any cost. Like, it seriously gives me anxiety. But we'd always eat so much that he would throw up, and then I would get sick seeing him throw up, so I would throw up. But I loved going there. We usually went there for Christmas. The reason why we didn't go there was really my mother. My mother didn't like my grandparents. So we never went. We really weren't allowed to go. There was like a 7 or 8 year gap where I didn't see them. Between like 9 to 16, I didn't see them at all. Which is a shame, because I feel like I don't really remember my relationship with my uncle when we were both younger, but there's a lot of photos of us, and I think he was really attached to me and having a nephew for the first time when he was only like 8 or 9. Pretty sure that's me asleep. It's hard to tell because I don't really have a reference for any of these, and my brother was around the same age. Like, me and my brother and my sister all looked the same as kids, and my parents just dressed us in whatever they had, so like really it was hard to tell who was the girl and who was the boy. But again, I'm pretty sure that's me with my granddad. That's definitely my granddad. Handsome. He was a handsome man, still is. Very sweet man. I remember when I got this tattoo, actually, I hid it from my grandparents. That was when I was living with I just moved out of my grandparents' house. I was living with them for a couple years when I was like 16 to 18, and I just wanted to get a tattoo, and I got this stupid tattoo which says, "My scars remind me the past is real." And that was a song that was really important to me. I was probably about 15 or 16 when I heard that song for the first time. Papa Roach became one of my favorite bands instantly. I struggled with depression since I was 13, and this for some reason this song was like therapy to me, and it still is. Whenever I'm having like a really bad day, if I put that song on and just breathe deeply, it helps. It's fucking weird because it's like Papa Roach. It kind of sucks because Papa Roach is like, it's almost got like Nickelback syndrome, where people, I guess, are either sick of them or like they think all their songs sound the same or whatever, and they give them shit. And, I mean, it's not. I love the band and they're very important to me, but I can see why people wouldn't like them. They're very basic rock and roll. But I don't know. It was growing up. I wasn't allowed to listen to music. That my parents were really strict about a lot of weird things. I wasn't allowed to listen to music that had swearing. I wasn't allowed to listen to rock. I pretty much wasn't allowed to listen to what my parents had. So I grew up on Queen, which gave me a good appreciation of a lot of music, like Queen and like Adam and the Ants, and like I remember listening to random stuff growing up. But when I finally got old enough to like start using the internet and find songs for myself, Papa Roach being like a harder band was something I definitely got into really quick. And yeah, anyway, I got this tattoo, and I couldn't show my grandma because she would kill me. So I was wearing long sleeves like all the time and hiding it every time I went around their house. And eventually she saw it and like freaked out on me. But my granddad was the one that was like, "I think it's nice. I like it. Like, well, what's it mean?" And I told him, and he's like, "Well, if it means something to you." And he was really supportive of that. And he's really always been supportive of me. The only reason I moved out of my grandparents' house was because he lost his job. But if it was up to them, I would have stayed longer. They couldn't afford to at that point. But he'd always try and give me money, even if I didn't really need it. And I did need it a lot growing up around that time because I was not smart with money at all. He'd always try and help me out. He'd always like walk me to my car when my grandma wasn't looking and slip me like $20 to $50. He's a really nice guy. I miss my grandparents a lot. That's like really like them and my brother and sister are the only things I miss about Australia, really. And Chris and a couple other friends. So this would be me and my granddad and I'm gonna guess that's my uncle. My granddad looks a bit older in that photo, so it could be me a bit older and my brother at the beach. That honestly looks like what's that beach called? Not Christie's. Doesn't matter. But the beach up from Christie's in between Moana for you Adelaideans out there. We loved swimming with our granddad. He had a pool. There's probably a photo in here of us all in the pool. But he always loved taking us swimming and teaching us how to swim and playing with us in the pool. I have a lot of memories of playing in the pool with my granddad. That's me crawling, doing the crawling. I don't know who that is actually. I mean, again, it looks like me, and I'm pretty sure it is me in a Mickey Mouse shirt. I never know. All our kids look so similar, and these photos are all jumbled. I'm gonna assume it's me. I know that's me with a truck. It could be cool. It could be a TMNT truck, so I have one photo to use on the channel that's me with some sort of like nerdy shit. growing up, but apparently no one thought that would be a good idea to take any photos of me playing games or playing with cool stuff. I know that's me and my uncle, and I'm pretty sure that's one of my uncle's favorite photos. He really did care for me. And he, growing up as well, I got kicked out of home when I was 16, when I just turned 16. And fuck. Let's get to this point. Let's sum this up real quick. So I got kicked out when I was 16. My parents were bad parents. They really were. I got kicked out when I was 16. My other brother got kicked out 2 years later when he was 16, and my sister got kicked out a few years later when she was 14. Some people just aren't equipped to have kids, I guess. But I remember... Oh, God. How much of this story do you guys want to know? So, I'm pretty sure a lot of... I'm trying to honestly remember now what caused it. What caused the argument. My mum and I stopped getting along when I hit 15. We started fighting a lot about a lot of things. Because I was, a teenager growing up. Growing up, I wasn't allowed to do a lot of things. Like, I wasn't allowed in the kitchen. I wasn't allowed to get anything for myself. I wasn't allowed to get food for myself. I wasn't allowed to make a glass of water for myself. And me and my brother would, be thirsty, fucking dehydrated for, hours in, Australian summer. My mum wouldn't want to get up and get us a glass of water. And if we went up and got ourselves a glass of water, we'd either get, hit or yelled at for going into the kitchen. I didn't use a microwave for the first time till I was, 15, because my mum wouldn't let me touch anything. And I went to my friend's house to make a cup of Milo, just, hot chocolate. And his mum's use the microwave. And I'm like, please help me. I don't know what I'm doing. And she's like, you've got this. You're 15 fucking years old. Use the microwave. And I put, a spoon, a metal spoon in the cup and put it in the microwave, and I blew the microwave up. And I felt terrible. And she was, cleaning it, trying to get it to work again. And she was obviously upset because my friend's family didn't have much money. But, I told her, and she, felt bad in a way because she, didn't listen. But then she also felt like I was fucking dumb because I couldn't use the microwave. So, yeah, I wasn't allowed in the kitchen. I wasn't allowed to do anything for myself. We were allowed to go for walks as long as we stayed within, a 1 or 2 street radius. If we were going up to the deli, or I worked down the road when I turned 13, I started working at Burger King or Hungry Jack's. So I was allowed to walk to work because only a few streets away. But apart from that, we weren't allowed to leave the house. So when I hit 15 or 16, I got a girlfriend, and I wanted to see her and hang out with her. And I wanted to start going to sleepovers at people's houses when girls were there. And growing up, doing normal kid stuff, I guess. I remember the biggest thing I done was, it was after school one day. And instead of going home... I told Mum I missed the bus, I think, and I took a bus to my girlfriend's house, and I hung out there for an hour, and then I went home, so I got home an hour late. So my mum was already pretty suspect about that whole thing, but it was my girlfriend's birthday, that's why I wanted to see her, and I bought her a cake, and I'm an idiot, and left the receipt in my pocket, and my mum would go through all my stuff. Every day she would go through my room. She'd look through any books that I had. She'd look for notes. She'd look for anything in my pockets. She'd look in my wallet for stuff. She'd look in all these nooks and crannies. If I had a diary, I didn't have one, but she would have read it. She opened all my letters as I got them because I was a kid, and she was my mum, so anything that was happening, she needed to know about it. And she went through my pockets that morning, and she found a receipt for this cake, and she went off. And I don't think that was what instigated it. I really don't remember what instigated it, but I remember one morning she was just yelling at me before school, and I was 16, so I snapped. I told her she needed to leave my room, which is me snapping, because trust me, snapping with my parents, I was gonna get fucking hit. My dad was a scary man. I told her to leave my room, and she was like, how dare you speak to me that way? And I had this sofa couch in my room, and I just pushed it into the wardrobe because I was so pissed. And my mom's a psycho, so my mom started screaming, and she ran into the other room and started screaming at the kids to hide under the furniture because I had a knife, and told my brother to call the cops. And the cops come, right? The cops come, and I had 2 cops in my room, and they see me sitting on this bed, and I'm just fine. and they talked to me for a little bit. Fortunately, my mom is psychotic and doesn't have any chill, so she was out there still screaming that I had a knife, and like the kids would be like, "Mom, he doesn't have a knife," and she'd be like, "Stay under the table, stay under the table," because she wanted the cops to think that it was like a desperate situation. And so they were like looking at each other. I remember their faces were like, "We fuck, like this kid's fucked. Like he has to deal with this every day." And so after like 30 seconds of talking to me, they said, "Do you need anything from us?" And the way they said it, like, fuck, I felt the pity in their voice. And I asked them to give me a lift to school. And Mum, the look on her face when we walked out, and she was like, "Is he going to jail?" And they were like, "We're taking him to school." And she was like, "Can you take my other son too?" Because at that point, she didn't want to have to drive one kid to school. So both me and my brother got a lift in the back of a cop car to school that day. And that was the last time I saw my mum for like 2 or 3 years, because I got called into the principal's office in my first lesson, and he's like, "I don't know how to tell you this, and it doesn't really feel like very professional either, but I don't know what else to do. Your mum has called the school and said she doesn't want to see you. She doesn't want you to go home tonight. You need to find somewhere else to stay." And he's like, "Are you okay? Do you have somewhere you can stay?" And of course, I didn't at all, because my mom had shut me off from the world for so long that I didn't know where I was going to go or who I was going to stay with or who I even knew, but I said yes. And then I started asking all my friends if I could stay with them, and of course they're all like 15, 16, and their parents were like, "Oh, no, we're not taking in another fucking 16-year-old kid right now." So the end of the day came, school ends at 3. I was sat outside the school boundary at like 4 on like the road, side of the road, and like an hour went by, and I'm like, I didn't have a car at that point. I didn't have anywhere to go. I've already asked all my friends if I could stay there for a while, so I didn't want to just rock up and be like, "Hey, can I just stay tonight?" Because I was embarrassed. And I still remember my old grandparents' phone number off by heart, back then when you didn't have smartphones or a phone. Actually, I had an old phone, but I had a Nokia at that point. I remember the number off by heart, so I just called them. I guess I had a mobile, and I called them. At this point, I hadn't spoken to them for like 7 years. "Hey, how you been?" And they were like really like fucking excited to hear from me. And I was like, "I just got kicked out of home, and I don't know where else to go. Can I stay with you guys tonight?" And they said that Uncle Ryan would be down to pick me up right away. And he was there within like 5 minutes, and they told me I could stay as long as I needed, and I stayed for 2 years. Because I was 16, and like the day I turned 18, I went and I got a place. I put my name on a place and started renting, and since then I've been renting. It was rough. Honestly, growing up was not fun for a lot of reasons that I won't talk about. But it was rough initially going to my grandparents, because there's like, this is like self-diagnosed, because I don't like seeing I've seen psychiatrists and stuff before. I don't like it at all. And I definitely didn't see one back then, because I was 16 and I didn't even like consider the idea. But looking back on it, this is self-diagnosed, but you can have like autism. You can be born with autism, obviously. Or you can kind of have autism like stamped into you, like psychologically like induced autism, or whatever the word is. And if not that, then I was at least very fucking, like, fucked up from my parents. But I'm pretty sure I had some kind of autism. Because when I got to my grandparents' house was when I really realized how bad it was, like, personally. And I got to the point where I wanted to change. Because I would shut myself in my room all the time. I wouldn't want to leave my room. They'd have to come knock on the door to talk to me. Which, you know, that's normal kid stuff. But, like, to an extreme, I would never leave that room. I would like go get my food and go back and eat in my room. I didn't want to sit at the table with anyone. And it's not because I didn't like any of them. I loved them. I was so appreciative of what they were doing for me, but I couldn't process that, and I just wanted to be alone. It took me, like, I would sit there and be like, because my grandparents didn't really have like breakfast, lunch, dinner. You just kind of ate when you were hungry. But I like didn't want to. I couldn't go and cook for myself. I couldn't go and get myself a glass of water, because I felt like I was going to be punished. I was going to be yelled at for it, so I refused to. I didn't ever want to like go in the cupboards and like get anything. And so my grandparents were really like, "Fucking get something, man, you idiot." And so eventually I started, eating for myself, making myself food, making myself glasses of water, and then my grandparents started letting me go to parties. So I was like 17, going to parties for the first time, which I guess isn't a bad age to start going to parties and meeting people. But it was really foreign for me, but it helped me get out of my shell. And honestly, if I didn't have my grandparents, I would not be an okay, rational person right now. I wouldn't be me at all. I'd be some like fucked up, like bunch of issues, probably if like a drinking problem or some shit kid. Like, I feel bad for my brother in a way. Me and my brother never got along, and that was my mum's fault, 100%. Played us like fucking fools, made us hate each other. But unfortunately, when he got kicked out, he didn't have my grandparents, because at that point they ran out of money because my granddad retired, and so he had to kind of fend for himself and ended up going down bad paths. And I haven't spoke to him in a long time, unfortunately. He doesn't want to speak to me. And I don't particularly want to speak to him either after a lot of the things that happened. That's a whole nother story. But he didn't have my grandparents to fall back on and kind of teach him right and wrong, because we never learnt right and wrong when we were growing up. We learnt everything was wrong, essentially. So he rebelled. I was starting to rebel when I was at home. I wanted to do bad things, but I was a little pussy about it. And then my grandparents sort of gave me freedom to not want to feel like rebelling. And I still tried. I would go out, and they'd tell me to be home by midnight, and I'd come home at like 12:30 or 1 or whatever, and I'd be like, what's the big deal? And I wanted to like rebel, like I was home a little late, like I didn't care. But my grandparents were like, we're letting you go to parties, we told you to be home by 12. And I remember that's where I got this story started from my uncle. It was because one night I came home, and my nan was just upset because like I didn't come home on time. She's trying to take care of me, and like I'm not doing what she asked. And so he took me outside, and he's like, look, just come home on time. Like, you can do what you want almost. We'll help you. We'll give you anything you want. Like, I can't remember exactly how he worded it, but like he's like, just live by our rules. Just do this little thing. Come home half an hour earlier. And I remember I was just like a shitty 17-year-old, and I still wasn't at that point where I could rationalize my feelings. And I was just remember being mad at him. But he just drilled it into me. He could tell that I was mad, and he got pissed. And I've never seen him pissed before. And I remember whatever he said to me, I can't remember the word for word, but I remember it, the thought and feeling behind it stuck with me. And that was definitely the changing point in me realizing that I was never given a childhood, but it was time for me to grow up and accept the fact I didn't have a childhood, and just be a man about it as much as I can. And it still took me a long time to become not an asshole, because I was definitely an asshole growing up. I didn't realize I had depression for the longest time. I didn't know what that meant and what that was about. I knew I had panic attacks, I knew I had anxiety attacks, but I didn't realize I had depression. And so I would take it out on anyone close to me, girlfriends or family or anything like that. And it took me, I still do it, but not nearly as bad. It's really only been like the last few years that I've learned to stop doing that as much. But yeah, my uncle was definitely a big turning point in that, and I owe him that a lot. I'm 26. My brother is now 24, and my younger brother and sister have to be like 18 and 16, something like that. So when I got kicked out, my siblings were only like fucking like 5 and 7, something like that. And I was so like withdrawn into myself, into my room and everything growing up, that I didn't really spend much time with my siblings. And then I spent like fucking years not seeing them. So I kind of, it sucks. It sounds terrible, but I almost forgot what they look like. So it's still hard for me to look back at these photos and be like, that's definitely my sister. I have a much better relationship with my younger brother-sister now. My brother messaged me yesterday. I talk to my sister all the time. Back when I was in Australia, I started a relationship with them, picking them up, hanging out with them. It was hard because I didn't know how to be a brother after all the years apart, but that's definitely my brother. He was a messy fuck. He was always making a mess. That's definitely my sister. Okay, she's wearing a dress. So we got that. We got my sister and my mum. That's my little brother, Connor. Wonderful little kid. Love you, Connor. Playing on our old fucking fuck off monitor. See, he could have a gaming photo. He could assume that he's probably playing some kind of video games. Where's my photo of me playing video games on an old fucking TV like that? That's me and my sister. holding a $10 Monopoly money, Australia money. I look like a fuck. I think my mum just put a bowl on my head and cut. I wouldn't even be surprised. I can't remember getting that haircut, but I'm going to assume that's exactly what happened. My sister is adorable. She was always adorable growing up. Still adorable. If you're watching this, Caitlin, still adorable. Me? We're getting the me. I used to go fishing with my granddad. I'm pretty sure this is when I lived there because my hair was like getting pretty long at that point. I looked like fucking Kelso from that 70s show. I don't think I even caught that fish. I guess I did. I think my granddad might have just caught it for me and took a photo, but I'm pretty sure I actually did catch that fish. This is me at my aunt's wedding, and there's my uncle. It's me and my uncle all grown up. Compare that to the older photo of us in bed, cuddling. It'd be weird if we did that now. I was really uncomfortable that day. I was not used to wearing a suit or having to be dressed up at all. I remember thinking I looked good. I thought I was like a little handsome man. I kind of just look like a fuck now. No, I'm not. Honestly, I need stubble. Without stubble, I am not impressive in the slightest. Without stubble, I struggle. This is me, I want to say, at one of my ex's formals, because at my formal, I had my hair all spiky. In Australia, we didn't have proms, we had formals. So I'm assuming that was me. I don't look too bad there, a handsome young fella. This is me. Oh god. You know what's funny? I still have that fucking sty on my eye. It's on the other eye now. I get styes all the time. I've always had styes growing up. Anyway, that was when I was shortly after my hair grew out a little bit and I put a bit of blonde in it. I went like emo for a while. And you guys, you have to remember. I'm done. You have to remember that I was like a little depressed kid. Like I had depression and like I didn't know it. And I was trying to like vent in my own ways. And I have black nail polish sometimes, and I wore eyeliner, and I had black hair, and like it actually did stem from being emo. Okay, I wasn't like one of them try hard emos. Like I earned my battle scars. I earned my right to call myself an emo. I definitely was. I wore like black stuff all the time. And that's a picture of me and my friend Ash in high school, back when my hair was long. I wish I had more pictures of my hair at that length, because it was a good length. This was me at my formal with my ex-girlfriend, who I guess will remain nameless for the sake of like personal identity. Lovely girl. She's married now. It's weird to think of. She actually got married a long time ago. I think she got married like 3-4 years ago, but I really liked my hair. I remember I really like I fucking spent so much time on my hair when I was like 16, 17. Like, just a stupid amount of time spiking my hair up. This is me and my old roommate Drew. I like got fairly chunky for a while. Because I started working at Burger King, like I said, or Hungry Jack's, and then I started working at McDonald's, and altogether it was like 5 years of me working in fast food, from like 13 to like 19 or something like that. So I mean, I ate it every day. I had like 50% off in both places, and I just got really overweight. I hit like 130 kilos at one point, and I have no photos of me at that. Actually, there's one photo, but I'm not pulling it up. Maybe one day. Let's take baby steps. And I got really overweight, and then I broke up with my girlfriend. I was with her while I was like in that emo stage, and we broke up, and I realized how fat I was. I'm like, I got fat in this relationship, and I went hardcore losing weight mode, and I actually did drop all of the weight, and I got really skinny. And when I first started the channel, I was probably like 20, 21, 22, around there, and you can see how skinny I was. Like I was skinny, and then I started trying to like get into shape, and I did get like kind of fit. I got like some decent arms. I got a decent chest. There's a photo in here somewhere, I think, of me with a decent looking chest. And then I became showboaty. I became like a pretty boy for a while, and I think probably a lot of that still reflects in my personality now, because I was like a pretty boy for a couple years where I thought I was like all hot now that I lost the weight. And then I hurt my shoulder pretty bad. I got tendonitis, and I couldn't go to the gym for like a year. And then I think right as I started getting back into the gym is when I started traveling to America, when I hit like 24. And just going to America all the time, or like traveling, I'd take 3 months off to do it, then I'd go back, and then I'd go back for a month. And the job I was at became really depressing. I was doing retail, working at Bunnings, which is like Home Depot. and I was just stocking shelves. I was stocking shelves for a few months, and then I kind of went up into management positions, like at somewhat running the team, not really management, helping out position, and then it was me and this other guy running this whole team, and it was going really well, and I really enjoyed it, and I really liked going to work. I've always liked leading, but the company started doing worse. At least our store started doing worse. And they blamed it on my area, which was receiving, which really wasn't our fault. We were just inundated with work, and they kept doing budget cuts and cutting people, and it was just me and this other guy, and then he pretty much gave up on me. And I felt like giving up, but I was like fairly new to the role, so I kept doing it. I was putting all these love hours. I was coming in for free. I was working for free and doing like fucking 60-hour weeks, only getting paid 38 hours. And then they decided that we need to reform receiving. And so because I didn't actually have a management position, I was just stepping up into a role that I kind of invented. They're just like, how about you just go back to stocking shelves, and then we'll get this person in to try this position that you invented instead. And I mean, the guy they got to do it instead was a really nice guy, and he had a really positive attitude. And he did, honestly, just as good of a job as me. I don't think he did any better. He was just more positive, and I think they needed that positivity. I became really cynical. I am really cynical in general. And I started talking back to the leadership. I thought I was in this position that I really wasn't in, to talk back to the leadership, because they were really fucking us over. So I tried to like be a man and like, you know, yell at them, and it wasn't what I should have been doing. So they demoted me back to night film, which I understood, and honestly it was kind of relief for a while to be out of that position. But the more I just went to work in stock shelves after leading a team, the more that became super depressing for me. So after about 3 more years of just doing that, and in that time the company took so many changes and became really hardcore. We lost our head leader, our head like manager, and we got a new store manager in, and the biggest thing that he wanted to enforce was people not working together because it slowed down efficiency, which sucked, because especially if they knew you were friends outside of work, they wouldn't put you together. They would make sure you weren't together so you wouldn't talk, because granted, it would slow us down a little bit, but in my opinion, if the work was getting done, if we went a little slower but had fun, had a good time, had enjoyment to work, and by the way, enjoyment was one of our values, then I didn't think it mattered that much. You know, you came to work, you had a good time, you got the work done, you got to work with your friends. You know, it promotes a good, healthy environment. Instead, everyone had to work on their own. A lot of people managed it just fine, but I know a lot of me and my friends who were around, you know, 20, 21, 22 years old, depressed us, and we would just go slower in general because we weren't having a good time. We were just stocking shelves, man. Like, it was like mundane shit. As soon as someone starts talking to you, you don't realize that you're doing it a little far. Anyway, all of that, it actually depressed me and a couple of my friends too. A couple of my friends actually, we all got like really bad like work depression. One of my friends actually had to go on medication just so he could get to work. Like, it was a bad work environment. It was bad. And honestly, that was a big instigator in moving here. A lot of people ask, you know, how I could just like up and leave, am I ever going home, blah blah blah, like why I did it. But you know, a big part of it was I wasn't happy with my life at all. You know, I spent my childhood upset. Like, I didn't have a great childhood up till 16, and then I was like fucking borderline like forced autistic for a while, and then I left there when I was like my grandparents' house when I was 18 and started renting. And you know, I didn't know how to save money. I didn't know how to be conscious with money. So I mean, like, my game collection is a huge like shining example of that. I decided I wanted to get into game collecting, and then within 6 months I had this huge fuck off game collection. And a lot of people were like, you just buy shit in lots and you don't care. Like, no, I actually did buy stuff I wanted, but I just like bought stuff, man. Like, I was working full time, and my rent wasn't overly expensive. It was like $600 a week, I think. No, $600 a fortnight. And I just spent every other penny on video games. Like, when I first moved out when I was like 19, I was on my own, and I remember I paid rent and I had $100 left for the week. And Zelda Skyward Sword just came out, and I just went and bought it, and it was like $100. That came with the Wii Motion Plus, and I didn't eat for like 3 days because I couldn't afford it. I got sick. I actually got sick. I finished that game sick because I wasn't eating. I was just dumb. Like, I didn't know what I was doing on my own at all. Like, I did a lot of growing up fast because I wasn't allowed to grow up as a kid. I had a shitty childhood. I didn't really know how to live on my own. I got overweight. I lost the weight and was doing a little better, like, physically and emotionally, but then my job started really depressing me. And then I went to America because I started this channel, and the channel was really like an outlet for me, somewhere where I could get some sort of satisfaction, somewhere where I could feel like I was achieving. I was working at this hardware store feeling like I wasn't going anywhere, and I was just getting more and more depressed. But then I'd make this video on, and like 10 people would hit like, 10 people would like leave a comment saying, just good video. And then it started growing and growing. I started getting shout outs from bigger YouTubers, and then it was slow. It's been a slow process. I mean, I've been doing it for 4 or 5 years, and I've seen more success than most, and I'm really happy about that. And my channel goes well. But I mean, it's 5 years to like 25,000 subscribers, which completely grateful of. But it's not like I fucking PewDiePied in like a year and hit like 100 million subs or whatever. It was slow, and when you sit here every day and you watch the subs, even if I get 10 or 20 subs a day, which is a decent steady number, you could sit there all day and wait for it to tick, and you won't get a sub. You'll be waiting and then tick, and then you wait like an hour and then tick, and then that's like at the point I'm at now after 4 years. Imagine back then when it was slow, but it still felt like that I was achieving something and going somewhere, and I wanted to follow that dream and do something more with it. And I started talking to like Scott online, which was the big instigator. He's like, hey, if you ever come to America, you can stay with me. And so right there, I realized, fuck, if I just stopped buying games for a little while and paid for flights, I had free accommodation with a friend. And then I think I just started talking to Billy and Jay, because I had made a video for them, a parody for them that Billy asked me to make, because he'd seen my show and saw that my style was obviously like his, because I was copying him. And they said, if you want to come to our con, I don't remember if I was a guest at the first one, but they said, we'd love you to come out to the con. I think they might have put me on Grimsy ended up getting me on the guest list. And I'm like, well, fuck, now I can go to a con and meet all these people that I could actually be a fucking guest at. My channel had like 5,000 subs at the time. And I could go stay with a friend, and then my friend Super Derek said, well, 2 weeks later there's Portland Retro Gaming Expo. If you want to come to that with me, you can stay with me for a few weeks too. So suddenly, I had this fucking 3 months I could stay in America for, and all I had to do was buy flights, and that was the main instigator. And then I went there, and I actually, for the first time in a long time, just had a good time. I enjoyed myself, and I was still battling pretty hard depression at that point. And there was a few times where I kind of just... It was a lot. Being away from home, actually enjoying myself, actually having a good time, actually feeling happiness, where it broke me. There was one time, and I still don't think Scott and Katie know, but we were driving back from Texas, and this is like 3 weeks into the trip, or 2 weeks into the trip, and I'd met so many people, I'd had such a good time. I had people, I had all these friends all of a sudden, and back home I didn't have a great deal of friends, but I had all these friends. I had people come and want to meet me and shake my hand, and coming from, honestly feeling like my own parents don't love me growing up, and definitely feeling that now, and knowing that they never really loved me, and feeling that, I'd fucked up everything after my parents kicked me out, I just kept fucking up, and I felt like I was the reason I was fucking up, and now suddenly all these people wanted to meet me. And by the way, when I say I appreciate you guys, I fucking mean that. I don't say that lightly. I don't know how to say it. I don't know how to appreciate I don't know how to do it like organically and make it sound natural, but like when I say I appreciate you guys, I really fucking mean it. And in meeting everyone there and like having a good time. On the way home in the car, I was in the front seat, passenger side, and I remember it was just too much, and I just broke down and started crying. And I was like, just staring out the window, looking at fucking America go past me. And I was just crying like this, like as quietly as I could. Fortunately, Scott needed like music blaring to stay awake on the road trip, so like no one could hear me. And I just kind of like recollected myself, and I don't think anyone noticed. And if they did, they didn't say anything. And that wasn't like the only time that happened. Like it's hard. But then I came back to Australia, and then Ali's like, I want to go to America. And I'm like, I'll come with you. So we went 3 months later. And in that 3 months, I was working at retail, my job that I fucking hated. And then I went back to America, and it was much harder for me that time. It's hard to explain what happened to me psychologically that time. I was dealing with a lot. I was dealing with a lot of relationship issues as well as a lot of my personal stuff, but I'd also come from such a good time, so to a to not a great life, to having such a great time that it's overwhelming, to going back to that life for 3 months, and then suddenly I'm back in America again, which is another, a few $1,000s later. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, what is my life becoming at this point? And I didn't want to go home again. And I mean, Ali will probably tell you, or I'm not even gonna ask Ali, but I was in a rough shape for a lot of that trip. At MagFest, Jordan will tell you, I was miserable. I kept going and sitting with Jordan from After End Media and Game Chasers, and I was just like depressed out of my fucking mind. I did not enjoy MagFest at all because my depression hit me so hard. And he's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, I don't even know. It was just too much to process. And then I went home again, and I'm like, I fucked up that trip because I couldn't get out of my own head that this wasn't permanent. I need to move. And I was going to move to Melbourne to get a new life, but I'm like, because it seemed too hard to move to the States, and it seemed too hard to do anything else. I'm like, no, you know what? There's no point moving to Melbourne hoping it fixes my issues because it's somewhat what I want to do. Let's be where I want to be. Let's go to America. And the more I looked into that, the more hard it became. I realized I could get a year out of America. I could get a year visa for America, but then I'd have to go home, and I couldn't work that time. So I'm like, well, I need a safety net. So I applied for the Canada visa, which lets me work. And my thought was, when I run out of money in America, I will go to Canada. And I managed to actually live off of the small amount I was making through YouTube, which isn't much. It's a few $100 a month, if that. Plus buying and selling some video games, collecting in lots and then selling back most of the lot, keeping what I wanted. Just kind of being more money conscious, doing like various things to make money. And I with the huge help from Tiffany as well. I managed to barely skate by for a year. And then I got told that I had to leave the country, and then I came and lived here. But that's why I moved. It was to, I guess, escape the depression, but also this is where I wanted to be. My friends were here. My family is here. I have a better time here. There's things I enjoy doing here. My main hobby, which is YouTube, which is video games, video game conventions, that all thrives in North America. It's not in Australia. My hobbies and my interests weren't in Australia. I could collect in Australia, and that was fine. I could go out on my own to garage sales, or I could take Chris if he was awake. I could do that every weekend. But then that became a routine. It became repetitive. And when we didn't find anything, it was like, oh, we'll try next week. And it wasn't really what I was looking for. I gotta tell you, since I made the move, I don't know how to... when I talk about shit like this, it seems so dumb. I've changed a lot. I mean, you learn a lot. You learn about the way other people live. I think for me, one of the biggest things was learning there's more out there and it's not all about me. I was really self-centered growing up. I went through what I went through growing up as a kid, and I was so enclosed in my room, in my isolation, in my own place, that I didn't really think about anyone else ever. I just thought about me and how hard it was for me and how shit my life was, and me. And I know a lot of people, I get comments sometimes where people are like, you always think it's all about you, Wood. And I think a lot of like that old me still like rubs off, and I'm definitely not over it. Like, I still sometimes have to remember that it's not all about me, and sometimes when I'm feeling hurt, my actions can hurt other people. And that's one of the biggest things that traveling changed, that opened my eyes to. You see I'm fucking living in another country now, working in another country, living with people from another country. There's so much more out there, and this is pretty similar to Australia. Like, there's so many other places in the world that have it so much worse, or just different situations in general. There's so many millions of people out there with different stories, with different experiences, with different fucked up issues, and I by far have not had the worst childhood. I've met people with so much worse childhoods, have so much worse lives. Obviously my life like now is pretty great. I get by despite my leftover issues from my childhood, and despite still not being fantastic with money, and despite like whatever the fuck else, but I live the life I want to live right now, and I'm so lucky to be in that position, because it could have been so much worse after the hand I was dealt. I definitely cut out a decent life for myself, but moving yeah, moving just changed me in general. It made me realize I need to stop being fucking whoever the fuck I was. And I honestly feel like if I went home and met some of the people from my previous life, you know, people that I don't talk to anymore, I didn't talk to before I left, and then even meet some of the friends that I had, I honestly feel like they wouldn't recognize me as the person that I was before. I think they would see that I've changed. Because I feel like I've grown up a lot. I think that's the biggest, not so much change. I feel like I've grown up. I feel like I know I'm still bad in a lot of ways. And I'm sure a lot of you that actually know me now probably watch this and be like, yeah, you're still a cunt. Like, you're still immature or whatever. But trust me, it was so much fucking worse. And I'm working on it. And I'm at least self-aware that I'm a cunt now. Like, I don't know. The move was good for me. And I feel like I'm constantly growing and constantly changing and constantly fixing a lot of the damage that was done from a lot of people that were supposed to love me and supposed to take care of me, and then I kind of just have to do it for myself. So, I mean, I tried to not make this depressing, and I mean, like, it's hard. Like, I have good stories. I'm sure I do. I have good stories from when I grew up. I have, you know, the fun, dumb stuff that I done. The shit I done with my friends. Like, I grew up with the same group of friends. I moved at, like, primary schools and high schools a lot, but I finally got stuck in one school, and I was in high school for Ranella East High School for, like, the whole time. So, like, I didn't have any, like, primary school friends because I moved so much, but my high school friends and me are still friends. Michael and Drew, I still talk to every night. I play Dota with every night. We've been friends for, like, 11 years now. And, like, we've done a lot of dumb shit growing up. We had a big friend group growing up. We made a lot of stupid home videos. We had a lot of good laughs. Did a lot of stupid shit. A lot of good stories that we can talk about. We're never, like... I was never the kid that went out drinking. I never, like, went out drinking. I never got drunk. I never, like... I've been drunk, like, 4 or 5 times in my life. I barely drink. I don't do drugs. I've never smoked a cigarette. I have dabbled in the weed a few times. But, like, it's not something that I enjoy. I enjoy video games. I enjoy being sober. I enjoy hanging out with friends. I enjoy conventions. I enjoy driving around and eating food. Like, I don't know. I find pleasure in a lot of, like, things in life that I guess I missed out on growing up as a kid. And, you know, I never felt like I missed drugs. I never felt like I missed alcohol. Plus, my mother was an alcoholic, so I didn't want to touch alcohol. But I had a lot of good experiences growing up too, but it's just when I think about my past and when I try and talk about my past, it's like, where do I begin? And it's never with the good stuff. I don't think of my childhood and I think, let me tell you about the time that I got an N64 for Christmas. Because, you know, like, fuck, man, I bought my own 64 with my money because my parents weren't going to buy me that shit. I kind of just had to make my own fun. And, like, I did for the most part. A lot of it was immature fun, but, you know, I don't know, my childhood wasn't great. And when I think back, you know, most of it goes to negative. So it's hard for me, and it's why I've kept it so secret. And it's why, you know, I wear my heart on my sleeve too. Like, it sucks. You know, I try and tell myself I don't care about dislikes or I don't care about negative comments, but I wear my heart on my sleeve. And I went my whole life being insulted by my dad or by, you know, people around me, and like a lot of it I deserved because I was like a little cunt, a little depressed cunt, and I didn't know it. I didn't deserve the shit from my dad, but like I grew up being insulted. I grew up being told what all my issues were. I grew up knowing, like, you know, being told that I was fat, or like I was a little bitch, or I was a girl, or I was all this shit from my dad. And then other people too. So like when people tell me it online, it's just like fucking Vietnam flashbacks and shit, and I sit there and I'm like I'll make a video about video games. Like, I'll sit there and I'll talk about fucking Zelda for like 10 minutes. About how much I love Zelda, and I'll try and review it. And then I'll get a comment that's like, Wood's kind of a cunt. Wood treats this person like shit. Wood's getting a little chunky. And I'm just like, try not to let the feelings show. But like, it does get to me. I've always worn my heart on my sleeve. And so I've always kind of wanted to talk about who I am outside of making myself look like an idiot in videos, but it's hard because I don't want to like bring anyone down, like depress anyone, because it's hard for me to talk about my past without thinking of bad shit. But fuck, I don't know. I swear I'll make a video about like fun stuff eventually. This is for stress, by the way. This helps me with my stress. My girlfriend Kim got me this. It's when I start to feel anxious, I start to play with this, and I did it like at first it was consciously. First I would try and grab this whenever I felt anxious, but now I start realizing that when I'm feeling like really nervous and stressed, I start to play with it. So feeling a little stressed right now. I want to end this video on a positive note, so it's not just fucking like an hour-long depressing video, but I can't think of anything to say right now. I guess what I'll end it on is I wanted to, I don't know what I wanted to do. I wanted to talk about me, and I wanted to put more of me out there than what you see each week. But more than that, I always awkwardly tell you guys how much I appreciate you and I appreciate this channel. And I think a lot of people don't understand how much it means to me, how much every little thing means to me. Like, I'll get dislikes on a video when I do like a sponsored video, but for me, like, when I'm at the point where this thing that I love so much, like, I can get paid for it, or I get people like wanting to like get ads on my videos because of how many views I might get. Like, that's fucking awesome for me. Like, I love that shit. Like, it makes me feel good. It makes me feel like I'm achieving something. Like, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing when someone gets sponsored. But I don't think a lot of people understand what that means to me. I don't think a lot of people understand what you guys, or people watching don't understand what you actually mean to me. This channel changed my life. This channel is the reason why I went overseas. I wanted to end on a positive note, but just think of this, because this blows my mind a lot. I spent a lot of my life depressed and a lot of my life thinking that I was suicidal or whatever. And I'd been working 5 years in that job that I fucking hated, and I didn't know how to quit. It was so, like, a reliable fucking income. I don't know if I ever would have fucking quit, honestly, because I was so depressed and just accepted that that was going to be my life. But starting this channel made me quit and move, and it helped me find these people like me, these people that I didn't know existed out there like me, that like the things I like, or was like me, people like Billy and Scott and Derek, and fuck, the girl I'm dating now knows about me because of YouTube, because of a friend of hers that watched my channel. And like, I fucking love this girl. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna fucking marry her. And I'm like here now, you know, like I'm fucking here, and it's because of my channel. And my channel doesn't get like these fucking fake views or these fake subscribers. These are all real people. Y'all are real people watching my shit. And because you guys watch, because you guys give me those views, you give me those likes, you give me those comments, you give me those subs, you share my videos, you made a name for me to the point where people wanted me to come to a con. Billy and Jay wanted me to come to a con, and it got me off my fucking ass. You made a name for me, so fucking Scott and Derek heard about me through maybe one of you guys sharing a video, and now I have a lifelong fucking friend, because maybe you watching this right now 3 years ago shared my video without knowing it. Scott saw it, and now I have a lifelong fucking, he's like a father to me. And I'm never gonna stop making videos, even if like life gets really busy, or like life takes a different turn for me, and like I need to make like one video a month or one video every 2 months, or like wherever it ends up being, whatever ends up happening. I hope not. I hope I can make it a career, but if it doesn't, I won't stop making videos. I don't care if I get paid for it or not, because this channel's not about money for me. I want it to bring in money so that I can do it full time. I would love nothing fucking more to make a video a day and quit my jobs and do this full time, but I can't right now because it just doesn't bring in enough money. But I would love it if it fucking did, because I'd be able to do it full time. I don't even know where the channel would go. It could go to fucking heights unknown if I had time to actually spend on it. But it's not about the money. It's about so much more than that. It's about the life it's given me. It's about the people that I know because of it. And it's because I am like fucking 95% less depressed now. I'm pretty sure depression just stays with you fucking forever and you can never get rid of it. But I am nowhere near as bad as what I was. I live a happy life now. I am generally happy inside, which is something I never thought I was going to have, is actual happiness. And yeah, that doesn't come exactly from uploading a video and look at the dislikes and the bad comments. It comes from the people I've met, the people I know, the people I'm dating, the people that support me and love me and care for me. And it does come from those of you that hit that like button and leave a positive comment down below. Because believe it or not, if I get like 500 likes on a video, that fucking makes me feel great inside. And I know that it's 500 people that liked my video. Likes for me aren't like just fucking... What do you think they are? They're not just like the video because I like seeing a number. It's because you guys like it, and I need that really fucking assurance because it makes me feel good. This channel is my life, and I love you guys, and I love the life I have now thanks to the channel. Thank you guys for watching. I don't know how to end the video, honestly. I have more videos that aren't so depressing. If this is the first video you've seen, wow, fuck, that's an interesting one for you to see for the first time. Make sure to check out some of the videos below. Like, comment, and subscribe. And, I'll see you next time. I hope I didn't, like, fucking depress anyone. I, like, fucking... Cucaracha, I don't know what to say. I spilled water on myself. Perfect.